Our cooperating partners, if any, ZANEC member organizations, I see some are present here with us this morning, members of the press, other civil society organizations present, invited guests, may I simply say, ladies and gentlemen, and all protocols observed. It is indeed my singular honor and privilege to welcome you all to this press briefing on the ZANEC analysis of the 2017 national budget to education and skills sector. I am aware that as media practitioners you have competing demands and you only attend events you may consider newsworthy. It is for this reason, therefore, that we as ZANEC do not take your presence at this event for granted. The press briefing this morning is intended to share on the ZANEC analysis of the 2017 national budget to the education and skills sector. Ladies and gentlemen, if this country has to reduce social injustice and be inclusive in its development process, education is one sector that needs significant allocation of resources. The provision of quality education to all citizens is the responsibility of every government. ZANEC notes with serious concern that the overall budget allocation to the education and skills sector continues to decline from 17.2% in 2016 to 16.5% in 2017, a reduction of 0.7 percentage points. The education and skills sector budget allocation in 2017 sadly falls short of the 20% Cairo Protocol, where our government promised to be allocating a minimum of 20% to the education and skills sector. It should be noted that increased budgets on education would help magnify opportunities for human capital development. We equally note with concern that the sector budget allocation is retrogressive. The share of the education and skills budget has reduced compared to the 2015 and 2016 allocations. The allocations have ranged from 20.2% in 2015 and reduced to 17.2% in 2016, and were still further reduced to 16.5% in 2017. The allocation for 2017 is the lowest in 7 years. This is of grave concern to ZANEC, as it was expected that the allocations would stay above 20% if we are to achieve substantial quality improvements in the education and skills sector. This questions, therefore, the government's commitment towards improving the standards of education, whose quality has considerably deteriorated and can be exemplified by many issues such as pass rates in mathematics and English and completion rates in Zambia, and also the welfare of the teachers and lecturers. The education and skills sector budget allocation comprises 5 main levels of learning, namely early childhood education and preschool, primary education, that is from grade 1 up to grade 7, secondary education, which is divided into lower secondary, grade 8 to 9, and upper secondary, which is grade 10 to 12. Higher university education, offering various training programs, including vocational courses, diplomas, degrees, masters, and doctorates. Youth and adult literacy education. Early childhood. The coalition would like to express its extreme disappointment in the reduced budget allocation to early childhood education from 40,440,784 to 37 million, may I simply say to 37 million in 2017. In addition, the funds released to the program is paltry. For instance, in 2016, only 10% of the budget allocated to early childhood education was disbursed by September 2016. This, as far as ZANEC is concerned, is a sign of no commitment to the provision of early education. The neglect of early childhood education development widens the gap between the poor and the non-poor. We all know the truth and the fact that the non-poor are able to access early childhood education through private preschools and nurseries, and this makes it easy for them to be integrated into the mainstream education sector. We also urge the government to lead and set the pace for human rights organizations to provide for learners with special needs, such as children living with HIV and AIDS, and those who are disabled, by dedicating an independent budget line to ensure that these vulnerable learners are not excluded from early learning programs. This is very important if we are to realize the legal provision of every child having the right to education according to the Education Act of 2011. It is of great concern to ZANEC that the government has not explicitly allocated funds to help learners with special education needs to improve their writing and reading skills, their participation in classroom activities, and their social interaction and behavior. This does not help in equality among differently abled learners to acquire proper skills and earn decent lives. ZANEC commends government for increasing the budget allocation to the primary and secondary education. We believe more classrooms, desks, and school infrastructure development would help alleviate overcrowding, cut class sizes, and reduce the long travel distances. Children in rural areas, as we all know, sometimes have to walk 2 to 3 hours to attend school. Our concern is that in 2016, the government did not release funds towards buying of desks for secondary schools, and in addition, only released 48.8% of the funds meant for secondary school infrastructure. This being the case, we implore the government to release all the funds meant for desks and infrastructure development, especially for secondary schools, in the 2017 allocation. ZANEC commends the government for having recruited 2,289 primary and 3,410 secondary school teachers in 2016. Government is also on record for having completed the construction of 62 new secondary schools out of the targeted 115, while the first phase of upgrading 220 day secondary schools was finalized. We remain expectant that the works of the other remaining schools will be completed in 2017 to avoid increased expenditure due to inflationary issues and ever-escalating costs of building materials. We highly commend government for the initiative of providing sanitary towels to schools in rural areas to support girl children. This will ensure that every child gets access to uninterrupted education. However, we are of the considered view that sanitary towels on their own will not retain the girls in school unless complemented with the provision of proper water and sanitation. We therefore urge government to fast-track these initiatives to enhance the kind of education that is offered to the children. We believe over time, the girl child has been unable to fully focus on books due to the uncomfortable situation they are faced with every month. Learners should be in a healthy and clean environment if they are to concentrate on their education. A snapshot survey conducted by Zambia Education Sector Support Technical Assistance, that is ZESTA, at the Ministry of General Education, revealed that filthy ablution blocks are partly responsible for learner absenteeism, especially for the girl learners. Limited funds are impacting on the tertiary education sector's ability to build new, global research networks, and international collaborations. The new universities and the old universities are finding it increasingly difficult to launch their research programs due to lack of resources. Ladies and gentlemen, universities and colleges are developing the most skilled members of Zambia's human resource. In today's global and knowledge-based economy, universities and colleges have become essential contributors to our long-term prosperity and quality of life. Competition for the world's best talent has grown dramatically, and as such, ZANEC urges the government to increase the budget allocation to universities and disburse all the funds allocated to the colleges and universities. As ZANEC, we are concerned that only 74,029,000 kwacha was allocated to science, technology, and innovation, as this is supposed to be the cornerstone for higher education to allow for our human capital to meet the needs and aspirations of Zambia's development agenda. We note that for higher education, Loans and Scholarship Board has been allocated 5 million. It is ZANEC's concern that the board has not yet been constituted, and this will and we hope this will not disadvantage students for 2017 and subsequent academic years. In addition, we are concerned that the allocated amount will not adequately cater for students, not only in public institutions of higher learning, but also the private ones, as the Loans and Scholarship Act of April 2016 provides. Just to highlight a figure, there is a process that is currently going on of selecting beneficiaries to the loans for the academic year 2016 and 2017, where our board vice chairperson, who's sitting right next to me, is representing ZANEC 1. According to the figures we have as ZANEC, there are 6,456 students that have applied to the University of Zambia alone. 6,456 students have applied to the University of Zambia alone. And out of the advert that was placed by the Ministry of Higher Education for loan applications for them to access UNZA, 4,650 applications have been received. And the Ministry of Higher Education has indicated that for the academic year 2016 and 2017, only 2,000 out of the 6,456 that have applied to UNZA, only 2,000 should be able to benefit. Now, we are looking at the 5 million. And according to the law, which was recently passed in April, this money is not only supposed to benefit UNZA students, or Copperbelt University, or Mulungushi University, but all Zambian students accessing institutions of higher learning, including the private universities. So, what is the government of the Republic of Zambia saying to the Zambian people? We make the following recommendations. The education sector budget allocation should always have a minimum allocation of 20% as per the Cairo Protocol. 2, the government should be releasing all the funds to the sector which will enhance and improve the quality of service delivery in the sector. 3, despite inclusion of early childhood care and development education subsector as a priority in national development and education sector plans, financing is very, very negligible. This needs to increase. There is need to increase allocation to primary and secondary school grants to ensure the sustainability of free, and I'll add compulsory primary education policy. The sustainability of free primary education as it stands now remains highly questionable. Government needs to fast-track the completion of infrastructure gap in the education sector. I talked about primary and secondary schools. I did not even talk about colleges and universities. If you go to the University of Zambia, our pride institution of higher learning, the biggest lecture theater, the NELT, is no longer sufficient to accommodate the number of students. If you go to a lecture late, you have to stand outside. What learning can you be able to achieve at the end of the day? Government should exercise candor in making available all information necessary for the public to monitor the progressive realization of this fundamental human right, that is education. Government should increase the budget allocation to universities and disperse all funds allocated to the colleges and universities. Funding should not be limited to arrears dismantling and personnel emoluments, but should be aimed at research and development aspects. We believe that as the mouthpiece of the public, we look up to you, our colleagues in the media, for information and education. It is for this foregoing reason that the coalition therefore calls upon you to continue providing this very important information. Further, we are optimistic that you who are present today will inform and educate the public on the real issues that are contained in the budget 2017, beyond just looking at the figures. You know, a lot of times we are misled by figures. We look up to you as the media, as journalists, to look at the final details, to be more analytical, to do more investigative journalism, so that we properly inform and educate the public in terms of what is really going on. We thank you, and may God bless Zambia.